No ancient military force projected terror quite like the Assyrian war machine, yet at their absolute peak, they vanished with shocking speed. When we look back at the ancient world, it is easy to compress centuries of complex geopolitics into simple morality tales. We view these empires from 40,000 feet, treating generations of human history like loose change. To understand how empires actually operate and fail, we have to zoom in on a specific year, 701 BC. The target is the tiny, isolated city of Jerusalem. The story of Jerusalem surviving the siege of King Sennacherib is widely remembered as a miraculous victory, but the physical evidence from the period reveals a different reality. Ultimately, this survival was a massive geopolitical catastrophe. Surviving a single battle is not the same as winning a war. In Jerusalem's case, the events of 701 BC birthed a strategic delusion that would influence Judean policy for generations. King Hezekiah ruled Judah as a vassal to Assyria. It was a humiliating but safe tributary status. He chose to abandon that safety, joining a fractured Western coalition alongside Tyre, Byblos, Edom, and Ashkelon. The prophet Isaiah strongly advised against this move. He warned that relying on the Egyptian army for military backing was like leaning on a crushed wooden reed. It would not support your weight. It would simply pierce your hand. Look at this map of the Levant. The moment the Assyrian army marched west, the coalition disintegrated. Tyre fell almost immediately, and the other city-states abandoned the rebellion, leaving Jerusalem entirely isolated. In a desperate attempt to hold the alliance together, Hezekiah forcibly removed the king of Ekron, a neighboring Philistine city, for refusing to join. This aggressive tactic directly invited Sennacherib's wrath. Depending on fractured international alliances and a weakened Egyptian state to fight a unified, highly aggressive empire is a blueprint for state suicide. Hezekiah had cornered himself. This topographical map shows Sennacherib executing a dual-pronged invasion. The main Assyrian force marched south along the coast to crush the Egyptians at El Teka, while a secondary detachment moved up the Beit Horon Ridge to besiege Jerusalem. Sennacherib sent his supreme commander, the Rabshakeh, to the walls of Jerusalem to wage an information war, attacking the city's psychological defenses before the first siege engines were even deployed. The Rabshakeh made a calculated tactical choice. Instead of speaking the diplomatic language of Aramaic to Hezekiah's officials, he shouted his propaganda in fluent Judean. He wanted every civilian on the wall to understand exactly what was coming. His argument was unassailable. Tracing back over a century of warfare, he reminded the defenders that no god of any nation had ever delivered a city from the Assyrian army. Highlighting the massive military disparity, the Rabshakeh offered Hezekiah 2,000 horses, mocking the fact that the Judean army could not even find 2,000 men capable of riding them. For the civilians trapped inside, the reality was terrifying. They were staring down an undefeated war machine, cut off, with zero hope of external rescue. The Assyrian method of conquest was psychological as much as it was physical. They relied heavily on destroying the will to resist long before the battering rams hit the walls. While the standoff at Jerusalem continued, Sennacherib focused his main attention on Lachish, the most important economic and military hub guarding Judah's coastal plain. This relief documents the siege of Lachish, showing the industrial scale of the Assyrian war machine. A massive battering ram dismantles fortifications, while at the top, desperate Judean defenders throw burning bundles of wood, trying to incinerate the siege engines below. But Lachish fell. The stone records the aftermath. Lines of Judean civilians processed, stripped of their homes, and sent into forced deportation. Sennacherib meticulously installed these reliefs in his Nineveh palace to project absolute power. This is the strategic reality of 701 BC. While Jerusalem's walls held out, the functional Judean state was annihilated at Lachish. Lachish was not an isolated incident. Sennacherib's own records state that his forces captured and destroyed 46 walled Judean cities during the campaign. It was a demographic catastrophe. The Assyrians deported 200,000 Judeans into the empire, permanently halving the size of Judah's territory. Eventually, the siege of Jerusalem was lifted. According to the biblical text, an unknown event destroyed the Assyrian army's logistical camp during the night, forcing them to withdraw. But Hezekiah understood the cold geopolitical calculus. He knew the Assyrians would simply rebuild and return. To ensure they stayed away, he chose unconditional surrender. We know the exact price Hezekiah paid from this hexagonal prism containing Sennacherib's annals. He emptied the temple treasury, handing over his musicians, daughters, and vast amounts of silver and gold, an administrative receipt proving he paid the exact same tribute as a violently stormed city. The events of 701 BC were a catastrophe disguised as a miracle. Hezekiah retained his throne, but he now ruled over a hollowed-out, decimated kingdom. As decades passed, subsequent generations misinterpreted the survival of 701 BC. They remembered the Assyrian withdrawal, but ignored the devastating tribute and massive territorial loss. This map illustrates how this selective memory mutated into Zion theology, the absolute belief that Jerusalem was the dwelling place of God and therefore physically invincible. This ideology blinded Judea's leadership to geopolitical reality. It allowed them to override the conditional warnings of their own historical covenants, replacing strategy with a sense of divine immunity. We can see the fatal consequence of this ideology a century later, during the Neo-Babylonian period. Under the assumption that the city could never fall, Judean leadership triggered another suicidal revolt against Babylon, explicitly relying on the precedent of the 701 BC miracle. This theological precedent became a fixed part of Judean policy for the next 100 years. When Babylonian forces surrounded the city a century later, the memory of 701 BC provided the ideological justification for a final rebellion that resulted in the total destruction of Jerusalem. While Judah moved slowly towards its own demise, the Assyrian Empire was tracing a dramatic trajectory of its own following Sennacherib's reign. This data map tracks the empire's largest geographical footprint under its last major king, Ashurbanipal. It absorbed the kingdom of Elam to the east and pushed deep into Egypt, capturing both Memphis and Thebes. Maintaining this vast territory required immense engineering and logistical capacity, moving massive stone monuments across the continent simply to project power. Then comes the historical whiplash. Within 15 years of its greatest territorial expansion, the Assyrian state fractured and was exterminated by a Median-Babylonian alliance. Yet there is a profound irony regarding Ashurbanipal, the commander of this hyper-violent state. Ashurbanipal's enduring contribution to history is found in his collection and translation of ancient clay tablets. He functioned as history's first archaeologist, dispatching teams to excavate and translate Sumerian and Akkadian texts for his personal library in Nineveh. Without this massive preservation effort, foundational human documents, like the Gilgamesh epic, might have been lost entirely. History rarely delivers simple lessons. Empires often collapse under the sheer weight of their own expansion, while small nations are destroyed by misreading the architecture of their own survival.